The courtroom didn't shake when the gavel fell, it changed when the judge laughed. Not a cruel laugh. Not the kind people use to win arguments, but the stunned, can't help it kind that slips out when truth lands with perfect timing. She was still reading when it started, eyes moving across the pages from the white envelope I'd placed on her bench. Dad's gold tie clip flashed under the fluorescent lights, and for 1 second, he looked like the man he wanted everyone to see. Pressed suit, spotless record, generous provider. Then the judge's mouth curved, the laugh came, and he blanched like the room had tilted. Mom's hands, those careful hands that paid bills and packed birthdays into brown paper, stilled on her lap. Hope is small when it returns. It feels like breath. But that wasn't the whole story, because envelopes don't build themselves. Control doesn't always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it shows up as a sticky note blaming too much on produce, a thermostat sealed with tape, a credit card statement waved like a sermon. Dad didn't need to raise his voice anymore. The house did it for him. The remote lived in a labeled drawer. Groceries were excess. Birthday gifts were waste. He smelled like boardrooms. He didn't actually visit and wore apologies like cologne strong up front, gone by morning. Veronica hovered at the edges of family dinners with a smile that photographed well. Grandma's pearls caught the light whenever she approved of his newest story. In those days, Mom apologized for the weather, for the mail being late, for the humming fridge. That's what control does. It teaches the honest person to shrink so the liar doesn't have to. But when people tighten control, they always leave fingerprints. In the Navy, truth lives in the logs. At home, it was hiding in timestamps that didn't match plane tickets, in bank transfers that hit like metronomes, in consulting fees that blinked at the end of every second week. He acted like money was rain, inevitable and untraceable. But rain leaves puddles, and puddles reflect. A property transfer popped on the county portal with a date that made my skin go cold. Mom had been 3 states away that day, standing next to me in a base museum, smiling under an old flag. Yet a neat signature, hers, allegedly had just moved our home into his sole name. People talk about gut feelings. Forget gut. Dates and signatures have no feelings at all. That's what makes them powerful. I started pulling the thread. A notary journal is a boring little book, ink lines, ID numbers, routine. It's also a memory that can't be sweet-talked. I asked to see April 12th. There he was, Dad's name tidy as a tux. And the line for Mom? Blank. No ID. No presents. No legal way that signature could be real. The notary's face drained when she saw it. She signed a short statement, hand shaking just enough to tell me she understood what her ledger had just confessed. I took the photo and tucked it into my binder. One gap opens a vault. You don't kick the door, you log the entry. Safes have rhythms. You learn the sound, the pause, the extra beat people add when they're proud of hiding things. His code had a date in it, one he bragged about when the whiskey was generous. The safe clicked open, and there they were, 3 folders and a flash drive, arranged like a boast. Assets, held deeds, including a lake place I'd never heard of under a company that fused 2 names a little too cleverly. Accounts listed 4 banks, 1 offshore. Transfers marched down the page like soldiers, right into the Caymans. The last folder was small, 2 pages. One was a list of usernames and passwords. The other was an email with the future in Florida painted like a postcard. Naples. A house near the sun. A life purchased with someone else's shadow. I plugged in the flash drive with gloves and discipline. An Excel sheet bloomed. LLCs, flows, totals that reached past a number most people only see in headlines. If the numbers are a net, the courtroom is where you cast it. I copied everything, put the originals back in their prideful place, and closed the safe on the lie that thought it was safe. Dad spoke in court like a man who believes practice makes truth. He said he paid for everything. He said Mom didn't understand money. He said he made hard choices. The attorney beside him tilted questions, so they poured into a cup already labeled generous spouse. I didn't correct him. I asked permission to approach. The envelope wasn't heavy paper, almost never is, but weight isn't measured in grams here. The judge slipped the pages free. First, the deed date. Then, the notary ledger with that telling blank. Then, the transfers that crossed the restraining order line. Like it wasn't there at all. Dad's smile tried to hold. Veronica's did not. When the judge laughed, the gallery breathed out and leaned in, the way people do when a magician makes the trick run backward. The judge didn't laugh at pain. She laughed at precision. A forged presence on April 12th. A holding company with the too cute name. Offshore wires that kept time like a guilty watch. She wasn't amused. She was impressed by how clean the truth looked when we finally laid it flat. Justice isn't loud. It's heavy. Temporary orders don't look glamorous on TV, but they change the temperature of a house. Exclusive occupancy meant Mom kept the keys while he kept his suitcase. No furniture disappearing, no late night walkthroughs, no more thermostat tape. Support started right away. The forensic accountant got invited to the party. Passwords changed. Credit freezes went on like armor you can't see. We inventoried rooms with a phone camera and a calm voice. The neighbor mowed our lawn without a speech. Mom went to choir and found the alto line. She thought she'd lost. Bad power thrives in chaos. Good boundaries, hum. And when the storm passes, you hear the house breathing. Grandma asked to meet without pearls. At the diner, she wrapped both hands around a coffee cup like it might steady the room. Control looks noble until a ledger says otherwise. She didn't ask me to forgive. She asked me to listen. That's all some doors need. Mom said yes to a visit the way gardeners say yes to pruning carefully, with an eye on what can still bloom. We weren't rebuilding his story, we were building ours, finally measured in truth, not volume. A letter from the Navy arrived with language that felt larger than our street. Conduct, commendation, honor. I showed it to Mom. Her hands trembled again, but this time, it was pride shaking old fear out of her fingers. The final hearing was short. Dad didn't come. The judge signed what the law requires when you bring it: receipts instead of rage. Assets divided as they should have been all along. House in the name of the person who turned it into a home. The judge looked at me the way cops do when they want you to pass something on. Remind your sailors someday that truth is the best defense there is. I said yes because there was nothing else to say. Outside, the flag snapped like a thing alive. Mom stared at it for a long beat, then said she didn't feel happy, just lighter. Lightness is better than victory. Victory wants a crowd. Lightness only wants your lungs. At home, we picked up what was worth keeping and let the rest go. Mom showed me where she wanted the lockbox to live, behind winter coats that would smell like cedar by November. We set up alerts that turned phones into alarms for the right reasons. The roses came back under her careful hands, buds the color of mornings. Grandma pulled into the driveway with a pie and no script. They spoke in the quiet tone people save for rooms where truth rests. No theater, just decency finding the cracks cruelty once filled. I sat on the porch steps and listened to the neighborhood at dusk, that soft orchestra of cicadas and kids and screen doors. We don't always get a chorus at the end. Sometimes we get a house exhaling and a woman humming the alto line she found again. I recorded one last note into the audio diary I've been keeping since the first time the thermostat grew tape. This isn't a story about punishment. It's a story about boundaries, about how a ledger can do what anger can't, about how laughter in a courtroom can sound like a country remembering how law is supposed to feel. If you're hearing this and you're shrinking to make a liar look tall, know this: silence protects the wrong person. Speak, write, log. Dates don't get nervous, signatures don't get intimidated, ledgers don't play favorites. And if a judge laughs, let it be because your envelope was ready. Mom asked me at a red light to promise I'd marry someone who can stand losing once in a while. I laughed. Then I realized she just taught me how to win the only way that matters, by standing still while truth does the moving. We drove home under a sky that didn't care who signed what, and for the first time in a long time, the porch light felt like a welcome, not a warning. The house breathed. We did too. And the envelope, empty now, quiet on the counter, looked like what it had always been. Not a weapon, but a mirror. Want me to convert this into a single continuous paragraph for voice over pacing, or extend it toward your 20K 30K letter target? with extra beats, for example, the bank manager scene, the police cruise by, the settlement conference dialogue, grandma's reckoning. I can also produce 3 thumbnail prompt options that match the courtroom laughter hook.